Hi, I'm Damian Conrad-Davis. Hello to you, Lee and Mitch and Keegan and Mike and John and Ed and Judy and Andrew and Tim, of course. Anyone else who's participated in this talk. If you've ever written a really long Facebook comment and then accidentally deleted it, then you know my pain, and that's why I decided to get on here and just say some things on here. First thing I want to address is as humans, we love to create teams. We love to be on different sides of teams. So I think it's important that, if we want to move forward as a country together, that we recognize that we like to do that and understand that maybe if these teams can work together a little bit, then maybe we can do more for everyone. So what I want to first admit, and to address everything on here, is that I have to admit that I grew up in an extremely Christian household with very intense Christian values, mainly of like love and and kindness and compassion and things of those natures. So I'm very biased in that. I don't currently practice any religion. Not really at all. You ask my parents; they're not very happy about it. But I do practice kindness. I do practice love, compassion, being present with people, and hopefully I listen and consider what people say. So I do have that bias, and so that colors everything that I'm probably going to say. So I'm interested that not everyone grew up that way, or not everyone has that moral system. But one of the reasons, despite me leaving that religion, that I've stuck so hard with Jesus in a lot of ways is because I found it to be very consistent, his teachings with a lot of the happiness research that we've done, a lot of psychology, and a lot of things that we've learned about how human beings operate. I've found that it's very consistent with some of the stuff that Jesus was saying. Also, Buddhism and other religions as well are consistent with that. So it's been kind of one of those things where it's like verified by other sources. So that's why I've kind of stuck to his teachings despite not being part of that religion anymore. So another thing that people mention on this, I had a Jesus quote right here actually. Jesus answered, "If you want to be perfect, go. Sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me." Now, I don't personally believe in a heaven or a hell or anything like that. It's really not that important to me, but I think it's a pretty good metaphor, in my opinion, for when you give those kind of things away and you detach yourself from the material stuff in our world, that you can truly find like a peace that I've recently discovered, and that and a lot of it is me kind of getting rid of like possessions and like things that I want and need in my life, and I focus more on people. So that's just a thought, I guess. So some of the things I want to address is like someone, I think Keegan, you said about entitlements, and I think Mike, you brought that up as well. And what I would argue is that the billionaires and millionaires and people that have exorbitant amount of money also feel entitled. They feel entitled to the money that they've earned. And now I'm not saying that they haven't worked hard, but I don't think it's always consistent, the amount of money people have with the amount of work they put in. As I mentioned in another quote, I firmly believe that money makes money in our country. Now, you can earn some, you can work hard and make some money, but from personal experience, I have done little work and earned a lot of money for some jobs, and I've done really hard work at other times and earned a little bit of money. So, and I had that epiphany of like, and Keegan, I'm no stranger to working hard, probably mainly in sports and stuff, but I do recognize that it's not like that graph isn't like the more hard you work, the more money you make, because I know that the more money you have, the more opportunity you have to make more money. And so we're talking about if everyone in the world started at an equal point, then maybe we all had the same opportunity to get to the same stuff, then we'd have a different conversation. But that's not the case. Neuroscientists and psychologists tell us that people start living in their environment. They always hear about your environment shapes you before they're even born. So the stress of the mother, the stress of the world around them, they start to react to those things already. So they come into the world already with we all come in differently, and so we don't all have the same opportunities to have the same earning potential, if we're going to talk about that in our country, right? And so if that's the case, if we know that the game is already kind of rigged in some people's favor, maybe not because anything people's doing overtly, then I don't know, my personal opinion is that we should be like, okay, not everyone's equal. We're all going to have different things that we're going to be strong or good at, and so therefore we should maybe bring everybody along, because as I mentioned, the more happy and secure our entire nation is, the more all of us are going to be secure. So it's really in everyone's benefit to bring everybody up just a little bit. Consider that the ways that people make money in our country are arbitrary. So yes, we've decided at one point as a culture who makes what money, right? But it wasn't me, it wasn't you, it was people way before us, maybe not even Thomas Jefferson, decided what we paid money for, right? So now we live in a world of Wall Street, we live in a world of these huge corporate banks where people just take percentages off the top. A couple people to consider is the CEO of VW, who they just got in trouble for lying about the emissions on their cars and polluting our planet more than they said they were, right? Makes $23 million, that's his salary. Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan, remember the scandal a few years ago, cost tons of people's job. The Bank of America, you think about that, and how many people got foreclosed on, can't live in their house anymore because they were given bad loans by banks, again got bailed out. But Jamie Dimon makes $8 million a year. No, that's Jamie Dimon, maybe it was $30 million. McDonald's CEO, which, can anyone really argue that McDonald's is a good thing for our culture? So you say, like, well, some people are being fed because of this, but really, when you eat McDonald's, it's not proper nourishment for people. It's not proper nourishment for your body. It does make people sick. And it's not a proper thing. So you're talking about the McDonald's, I don't know his name, McDonald's CEO is making a ton of money off people that can only afford to buy food at McDonald's, right? And so he's entitled to the money that the poor have given him. Does that make sense? And so I think when we all feel entitled to all these certain things, then of course we're going to have these disagreements and like thinking who should have what. But in reality, if we're all doing better, if everyone's doing better, then why shouldn't that be our standard of morality and ethics? Does that make sense? Why shouldn't that be how we decide? And there's tons of stuff going on about happiness and measuring gross domestic happiness and things like that. So I think there's a lot of movements in this direction. But if we keep thinking about this archaic sense of capitalism and how, you're trading, your time and your talents for money, that's just not how it works anymore. And I don't think anyone's going to argue that. I mean, not anyone that studies it. I don't think anyone's going to argue that it's just plain old hard-fashioned work that gets you money. I tell a story on my tour downtown Chicago about how this guy became the CEO of a company. It's really because he married the wife of, the daughter, of the current CEO. So, things like that happen. And so those people, I'm sure, feel entitled to the money they get. And all we're saying is there's so many people that don't have hardly anything, that can't eat, that they don't have a good education, that never went to good school, that grew up in a poor neighborhood with gun violence everywhere. To recover from that, to recover from those kind of things, I can't imagine. I'm a super privileged person. That's why we're all probably on this thread, because we're all privileged people that get to talk about this kind of stuff. But there's so many people that don't have voices. And I think it's important that those of us that do have voices, look out for those. And again, remember, I'm super biased with this whole Jesus idea, right? So if you have a different set of morality, then you might not agree with me. But that's just what I'm bringing to the table. So I want to make that very clear. Someone talks about, our grandchildren are going to be covered in a pile of debt. And what I would ask you to consider is, maybe you'll have grandchildren, and hopefully you do, and hopefully they're beautiful and amazing. But consider that, according to Feeding America, 15.3 million children under the age of 18 don't have access to a proper meal every single day. That's in the U.S. So you want to talk about drowning in debt, drowning in this technology of money that we invented, and it's completely arbitrary, the rules we made up for who gets the money. There's a lot of great talks on this, but it's arbitrary in the way that the people that got to create the rules for getting the money are the people that are making the money. So if you look at it that way, you might consider that it's not a fair system, and that because inherent in this system, inherent in it, is going to be inequality. And so because of that, maybe it's a good idea to help out the people that don't have anything, because you can't take it with you. And, Trump doesn't look like a happy guy to me. He looks, I don't know, maybe he is. I don't know him. But it's like, when I looked at the GOP debate compared to the Democratic debate, I think O'Malley summed it up nicely, is that there is a compassion that you can see and a care that you can see. And I'm always so surprised because I don't see that as much on the other side. It seems like the policies that they're trying to enact on the GOP side really aren't going to benefit the most amount of people. And that could be a disagreement saying, hey, if we made everyone at the top richer, then everyone would get more richer. But that's just not the way it's worked so far. And so if that hasn't worked so far, I'm not saying it can't work, but it's like maybe we try something different. Maybe we do something. You could say, well, we had social care and Medicaid and Social Security and all this stuff, and I don't have the answers, but I do think it's important to think about what's important to us when we go into this election and we pick the person that's going to lead our country, and we consider what is it that we really want. Do we want to have tons of money for just a few people, or do we want maybe everyone to just have at least access to a little bit of security and a little bit of food? A thing that I'm going to ask, I'm going to get off here now because I don't want to ramble forever, is to consider your privilege. I often think of the great family that I had, the love that I've always gotten. I mean, just with my immediate family, my immediate friend group, I know people that have lost family, that don't have a support group. I know people that do, and you can see the difference in the way that they interact with the world, and you can see how that really makes a difference. And so maybe we can all be that support group for each other. I got nothing but peace and love for everybody, and I'm more interested in the conversation. I know it seems like I'm petty, and maybe it's Lee. I'm really not. I'm having a fantastic life, and so what I think about on a regular basis is like, I'm doing so well, but is that good enough for me? Is it good enough for me that when I walk in the streets of Chicago, that there's people that don't have anything? When I see it everywhere, that people have nothing, and not only that they don't have money or iPods or iPhones, it's that they're not eating, and that they don't feel loved, and that they don't feel cared for. That's important to me, that I can spread that to as many people as possible, and I think Jesus, his values are what taught me that. So peace and love, everyone. I hope you have a good evening.